Yeah, he might be.
Okay, we're live. Oh, great. Okay, welcome everyone. I'd like to call tonight's regular council meeting to order. We're starting with a new format this evening. Hopefully people will be able to see and hear us better and have more fulsome conversation than over the phone. So thank you to the IT team and our staff for getting the Zoom format organized, which for the foreseeable future will be our new format for council meetings. So item 2, recommendation that the agenda for the regular council meeting of March 8th, 2021 be adopted as presented with the amendment of removing item 5C. The developer has requested to remove that item as they would like to do some more work on their application before it comes back to council.
All right, move on.
Moved by Councillor Ranhawa, seconded by Councillor Scott Morvan. Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3A, recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting of February 22nd, 2021 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Scott Morvan, seconded by Councillor Adey. Is there anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3B, recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting of February 22nd, 2021 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Ranhawa, seconded by Councillor Niche. Any comments? Anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, well, first up tonight we have a report from our Chief Financial Officer. We're back in budget season this year, so she will be doing our 2021 budget presentation. Take it away, Ms. Bombin.
Thank you. I will begin to share my screen. In a moment. Oh, you got, is that the proper screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are presenting the 2021 municipal budget for the City of Prince Rupert. For the benefit of Council and our viewers, we have prepared a presentation to accompany the report to Council on this evening's agenda. The report itself is for information purposes, and it is requested that Council defer direction with respect to the 5-year financial plan and related tax rate bylaw until after public consultation and final BC assessment numbers are received. Our presentation order is as follows. We would like to take a few minutes to acquaint everyone with what services include and discuss some of the projects we will be undertaking this year. After, we will present the budget requirements, staff's recommendation, and the impact of that recommendation to property taxpayers. Finally, we will outline our plans for public consultation. Our budget is made up of many services which are offered year-round. We work each day to keep the streets clear for commuting, the water flowing when you turn on your taps and flush the toilets, the waste removed, the community safe, and the places for play available. Embedded within these are information technology, financial and customer support services, communications, fire response and dispatch, engineering, fleet and building maintenance, bylaw enforcement, and police detachment support, city beautification, and economic development. We are a large employer with approximately 150 full-time employees and nearly 100 casual workers. Chances are you or a family member knows or are related to a city worker. The budget for the city supports all of these services named, which are used generally by every person in the city daily. This past year has been especially challenging, from the pandemic to the significant amount of rainfall that increased turbidity within our water supply and how changing standards for water has resulted in a prolonged advisory for high-risk individuals. 2020 has not been kind, albeit we have all been encouraged to be just that. The city pays for these services through 3 self-funded utility funds and an operating fund. Each utility has fees that pay for its function and capital infrastructure. The operating fund is funded through grants, leases, fees, and property tax. Operating pays for things like security services, recreation, and roads, amongst others. Property taxes do not pay for utilities, and likewise, utility fees do not pay for operating or other utilities functions. We began last year with plans to start 2 very large projects. The pandemic may have slowed our start, but phase 2 of our water infrastructure project, the Woodworth Lake Dam replacement, is underway and expected to be complete later this year. The new landfill cell is in the works presently, and it too will be completed later this year. With the opening of the new cell, we will need to progressively close the active cell. Within the year, we aim to complete design for both the water treatment facility, known as phase 3 of our water project, and the RCMP detachment replacement. Both of these projects were set back by the pandemic. We hope to be in a position to begin construction of both in early 2022. In 2019, the city and a number of partners undertook a visioning exercise that produced the Prince Rupert 2030 document. The next phase of actioning some of that vision is the revitalization of the CN building and relocation of the airport ferry to that area of the waterfront. With the growing port, there is increased potential for disruption to the ferry connection to the airport. Relocating the ferry will bring the gateway to the community to a central location, and the revitalization of the CN building will help to re-energize some of the limited public waterfront our community has. Included in the operations and utilities budgets are capital works and purchases funded in part by operating revenues. The balance are funded through dividends, grants, accruals, reserves, short-term and long-term debt, and surplus. Some notable capital works and purchases included in the 2021 budget, not already mentioned, are sewer and drainage network repairs identified through Cammering in 2020, conducting bridge assessments postponed from last year, performing roof work at the library and Leicester Centre, installing a new outdoor washroom, and maintaining paving at the 2020 increased level. City staff are not proposing any expansion to regular services for 2021. The expected increases in expense items like contractual wage and maintenance increases and increased RCMP costs have been offset by savings obtained through temporary staff attrition and decreased overtime and casual hours generally experienced at the recreation complex and the airport ferry. Expected COVID-related losses are planned to be mitigated through the use of the COVID-19 Safe Restart grant received from the province in the fall of 2020. There is also new taxable properties from expansions and new industrial builds, which has resulted in new taxation added. Given the information known to date, staff are able to announce a budget surplus. This means we are able to recommend no increase to the residential mill rate. For clarity, this means a 0% change to the mill rate for 2021. There is enough of a surplus that we're proposing to reserve it to mitigate the future tax increases that come with unexpected and even planned capital asset replacement and renewal. Our infrastructure deficit is still a hole we are climbing out of. Adding back to a fund that we have been taking from will help us fill the roads that get dug up from pipe breaks, make necessary bridge upgrades, renew municipal buildings, and replace needed heavy equipment. Now move into how the proposed mill rate will impact taxpayers. A mill rate is the multiplier the city uses to calculate property taxes each year. The number represents how much you will pay per $1,000 of assessed value. For example, 1 mil is $1 per 1,000 assessed value. Given mill rates are based on assessed values, before we consider any increase or decrease to the taxes needed to be collected, we recalculate the previous year's mill rate to bring in the same amount of tax as was collected in the previous year. It is this adjusted rate that is increased or decreased depending on need. Our mill rates have decreased over the past 7 years and again for 2021. The reason this reduction over the years has happened is because assessed values have increased, and since we adjust the mill rate to account for this change, it means the multiplier gets reduced. Assessed values did not increase much for the 2021 year, and so the mill rate reduction shown reflects the impact of the market change as at mid-2020. So what does our recommendation mean for property owners? The next couple slides will outline how a property owner can calculate the municipal portion of their property taxes. To recalculate the impact to a property owner of the recommended mill rate, one needs to compare the 2020 combined general property tax to the amount calculated for 2021. The 2020 combined general property tax can be found on the 2020 property tax notice, as shown in the red circles. These are the only categories council can decide on. All the rest of the tax levies are either set by another authority or calculated based on assessed values in Prince Rupert to pay the bill the city has sent. We do not yet know what the other levies will be. The formula to calculate the general levy is on this slide. Take 2021's assessed value divided by 1,000 times the proposed 2021 mill rate. This is the municipal portion of the property tax for 2021. Compare this to the 2020 combined general property tax as found on the previous slide. This will inform you whether the taxes have gone up or down compared to last year. On the far right-hand column is the proposed municipal rates for 2021 for residential, light industrial, business, and not-for-profit, and is provided for viewers to calculate the potential impact to them, whether it be their home or their business property. We've included what the 2020 rates were for comparison. I will pause here for a moment for our viewers. Here we have provided the effect to a homeowner with an average assessed value for this year and the past 2 years. The proposed mill rate results in no change for a residential property owner with an average assessed value home in all 3 years. As mentioned on a previous slide, the proposed residential mill rate is lower than last year. To show in real dollars the effect this has on a homeowner, provided the value of their home stayed the same, we have created the following table. This table is in a range of dollar values where the majority of residential assessed value levels exist. For simplicity, we have separated them in $50,000 increments. For example, if a homeowner's value in 2020 and 2021 is $200,000, the 2020 municipal taxes paid were $1,172, and at the proposed 2021 rate, the taxes are $1,101, or $71 less than in 2020. So because the mill rate is lower than it was in 2020, a homeowner whose value stayed the same this year as it was last year can expect to pay less tax in 2021. Some home values did increase during the year, some largely and some marginally. Others stayed the same and others decreased. This is why it is important to calculate the expected value of taxes individually to determine the impact to each property owner. The city recognizes that property taxes are not based on means to pay. Therefore, we want to make homeowners aware of some programs that help to aid those that may qualify. The provincial government offers residents the Homeowner Grant and tax deferral programs. These programs are available to reduce taxes paid and defer the tax payment through a loan that is recovered at the time of sale. Details can be found on the provincial government website, the city's website, or on your property tax notice. We would like to take this opportunity to notify homeowners of a change to the Homeowner Grant program made by the province. This year, homeowners must make application to the province for the Homeowner Grant before the tax payment deadline on July 2nd, or a provincial penalty will be applied. Go to gov.bc.ca/homeowner grant or call toll-free 1-888-355-2700 for more information and to make application. You can no longer make application through City Hall by using your tax notice. BC Assessment will release the revised roll on March 31st, which will take into account any appeals to assessed value. It is expected that changes are likely based on the revised roll, and any reductions to assessed values may impact the proposed mill rates. We have prepared a budget document which will be available tomorrow, March 9th at City Hall and the library. This document and this presentation will also be placed on the city's website. We encourage people to have a look. Staff is planning to have 2 public consultation opportunities. Given the PHO orders, this year we will be requesting council meeting participation in advance through questions emailed to finance@princerupert.ca by 4 p.m. on March 22nd and April 12th. Questions will be read during the meeting and answers provided at that time. We would like to take the opportunity to introduce our new budget simulation as another method for people to provide feedback. Here is a short demo. And I will share my other screen. Users will see that there are three main features: spending, revenue, and the balance bar. To use the simulation, you can adjust spending and revenues to tailor it to suit your priorities. Remember, if you make an adjustment, you need to adjust another category, be it spending or revenues, to balance. There's information on each category and subcategory at the small i's. And you can also type a comment on a category. Remember, get as close as you can to balance. When you're done, simply click Submit. If you want to start over or save your progress, you can do that too. Use the simulation to let us know where you would place the city's funds. You can also see where your estimated tax dollars will be allocated based on the city's proposed budget by checking out Taxpayer Receipt, which is on the last bullet point right here. Input your assessed value and learn what portion of your municipal taxes will fund the various city services for the year. And I will put in the average assessed valued home. And then you can see the unofficial taxpayer receipt with the allocation to the various services. This simulation will be available tomorrow, Tuesday, March 9th, and open until Tuesday, April 13th. It will be made available through our website and social media. Give it a try and submit your balanced budget. This concludes our presentation. Thank you to Council and our community for listening.
Thank you very much. And great job to staff once again on this year's budget. A lot has changed since we began this journey 6 years ago, and the budget consultation and conversations have dramatically shifted. This year, we're looking at another no tax increase, which is wonderful to see, and a surplus. I'll open it up to questions now to council about the budget, and start with Councillor Randhawa. Actually, let me just quickly do a speaker list here. So Councillor Randhawa, Councillor Moreau, anybody else? 80. Councillor Niche, Cunningham. I'm guessing everybody wants to say a word. Councillor, okay. So we'll do in that order. Well, we'll start with Councillor Randhawa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank our staff for our presentation. We all know, like we have all with COVID, all the challenges, like we lost revenue and still keeping our tax no increase this year. I think this is great news for our community, and would like to thank our staff for their hard work and finding all the avenues to balance the budget. So I really appreciate our staff. Thank you.
Councillor Moreau.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, I'd like to just say exactly what Councillor Randhawa said. Massive kudos to staff for all the work in this budget behind the scenes under the circumstances and with all the uncertainty. It's no small feat to be proposing another no tax increase for yet another year. And well, I know that's likely the headline that makes the newspaper and gets the clicks on social media. But for me, equally important, if not even more encouraging to me, is the $850,000 proposed for capital reserves. We all know we're in a situation with a $300 million plus infrastructure deficit. We have decades of catch up that is still left to do. Obviously, that can't happen overnight, but requires consistent and sustained efforts over time. And I think this is an excellent use of the surplus. It protects us against uncertainty in the future, has the potential to mitigate future tax increases. We can use it to leverage grant contributions where we have to put up a certain percentage. It enhances our asset management planning. It can reduce future debt servicing, and it gives us more flexibility for our cash flow. So for all those reasons, that to me is an equally, if not more engaging headline. The other piece I want to draw attention to, because I'm so incredibly thankful for the finance department for this, is that budget platform, the Balancing Act software. I think that type of virtual interaction, the level of individual customization available in that budget simulation, honestly, I think will yield us better feedback, more useful feedback, and more of it than anything we could actually do in person anyways. I think it's a huge step forward on being as open as we possibly can be with where people's tax dollars are spent. And so I hope what it will do in people engaging in that exercise is will give not only community members a better sense of where exactly their individual tax dollars go, but also will give us as council and staff a very good sense of where the community priorities lie. So again, a huge thank you to the finance department for getting that budget simulation together. I know it's a lot of work behind the scenes, and I think it'll yield some excellent fruit for us as we go forward with our decision making. So thanks again.
Councillor Adie.
Yeah, I always find, I should say I always find, this is my third time through. This is the third time through this process where I've found myself admiring people who know a lot more about how to do finances than maybe I do. And each of those 3 years, I found myself feeling that a good job has been done. So I want to extend that. I do have a question around the whole sort of public feedback loop. The simulation software, I think it'll be really interesting. Anybody who wants to participate in it, I think will find it an interesting exercise. I guess I'm looking for some clarity though, because we're going to accept this report at this point as information pending public consultation. So hopefully people will participate in the simulation. I think people will. I'm going to ask or assume, maybe I'll ask, other avenues of communicating public feedback. What are some of the other options? Obviously, people are free to phone councillors, people are free to phone City Hall, write letters and so on. Is there any thought about making sure that we sort of tap into all the possible sources of information? And then at the end of that process, what are we looking to do in terms of presenting the results of that to the public as well?
I'll answer that. So we do have the budget document, which is for those that maybe want to view it. It will be printed. It'll be available at City Hall and at the library. People can come in, they can ask to have it. They can read it, and they can go ahead and call if they have any questions. They're free to go ahead and email any questions. Again, finance@princerupert.ca can be utilized for them to provide any feedback on that document. And if they do have the internet, they can also still participate in the simulation. We will be providing information back to council, as well as the information that is obtained and fed back to us through the budget simulation.
Did you have a follow-up, Councillor Adie? Good.
Sorry, yeah, one other question. That was around the change in how you apply for the homeowners grant, and I recognize that in a way it puts all of that beyond our control. And I'm just imagining that some people might plan their normal July 2nd or July 3rd visit to City Hall, not knowing any of that's changed, and find themselves a little bit, behind the 8 ball in terms of qualifying. Are you aware of any measures that are being taken to communicate that change to the public, not just from us, but also from the provincial government?
It is on the provincial government website. We are putting it on our website. We are going to make sure that it's the first thing that people see when they open their property tax notice, instead of the property tax notice being the first thing that's on the top page. It's going to be a page that says, you need to apply for the homeowner grant. You should do it right now so that you don't forget. And we will continue to message at each of the next council meetings that the homeowner grant needs to be applied for. You can actually apply for it right now, but it'll just be held. It won't be applied. It won't go against anything just yet. And I'm told that we will get updates every single day as to who has actually applied for the homeowner grant, and it will upload into our system so that if you do go to make a payment, if you drop a check off, you're paying the net. The only problem is that if you try to apply on July the 2nd itself, then we might not have the information quite yet in our system and you make the net payment. But if it shows up the next day from the provincial government into our system that it was applied for on time, then it will come off and there won't be any penalty that's applied. We will do everything that we can to message to the community about the change.
Councillor Niche.
Well, big difference from 6 years ago. Once again, we've been saying it every year for the last few. Great job by staff putting together a budget, especially with COVID and what it's done to our, to the budget by, affecting all the different things, whether it's revenue or it's just what's going on in our community. So, we also got to thank the province, I guess, for putting out the grant to help with the COVID restart, and that'll help with things like the recreation center and the things where we're not generating the revenue that we used to generate. So thank you to the province for allowing us that grant to help with our restart, help with things like whether it's the airport ferry or the rec center or whatever we need it for, as far as what it's allowed to be used for. Obviously we can't just use it for general revenue, but whatever applies. So thanks to them. And this year it is going to be a different year for taxes, with the fact that we can apply for these homeowner grants, and it has to be done online now. So, if anyone's listening to this, we need to make sure you tell your friends and tell your relatives and tell everyone you can that this year you can't just walk in with that piece of paper with your signature on it to claim that homeowners grant. And we need to get that message out there as best we can, because we know there will be somebody on July 3rd saying, well, I applied, and it's going to be late. So we can only do what we can do. We're going to, obviously staff will do their best to try and get that message out to everyone. And hopefully the province also does that. And it's a great job on the budget this year. And I really am excited to see how many people participate in the I can't remember the name of it, but the budget system where you can go and play with your own budget online. I think that is, people aren't going to read line by line items through the budget. They just don't do that. And I think this will be a reality check to anybody that actually wants to try this system and see how adjusting one small number on a screen, which they may view as minor in their mind, and it'll show how much that affects your budget being under or over. And I think it's going to be if it gets used as much as I'd like to see, it's really going to be some interesting and eye-opening for people to see how much or how little one adjustment can make on their taxes. And I look forward to seeing that information when it all comes in and everyone's got their opportunity. We know everyone always at the coffee shop knows what we should spend our money on. and now there's a chance to show us what we should spend our money on. So I encourage everyone to participate in this. So please do. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham.
Okay, I just think it's great. The staff's done a great job. Where other communities are having to put up their taxes or cut services and that, we're status quo, and that says a lot for what the staff's done. It's I think it's a great start for people to realize that with the budget simulator, that the wizard we call Corinne works a lot harder in the background sometimes than people realize, because I look at the budget sometimes and it's just a bunch of numbers, but this is going to be really interesting when people actually sit down and start trying to play with it. And I think it's going to be a great asset. And I like the idea of the 850,000 going into asset management. It's something that when we came on council, there was no money left in the kitty for us. And this is going to be a legacy to future councils that, here's a start towards the aging infrastructure we haven't got to. So I just think it's great. I think it's something that is a real good step forward in the future for us. And thanks staff for it again. And I can't echo enough what Councillor Neese said about the homeowners grant, because I've already had people mention to me, seniors and that, what are we going to do with things like this? So, and I didn't have clarity on it till now. So I will be passing that on at the senior center to a lot of people that are going to be a little confused towards tax time and that, because it's something that's going to be very confusing. It's a big change for people. Just sign a piece of paper and it's taken care of. Now they're going to have to take care of themselves. So again, thank you to staff, and I think it's a great budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Scott Morvan.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And I echo a lot of the notes that have been made. And I guess I'll start off by saying Happy International Women's Day to these rock star women and our staff. And I think that for us as a municipality, I've always been very admired and in awe of just how entrepreneurial and enterprising our staff are, very progressive and very forward thinking. This is a future of good governance, is joint ventures and all of these other partnerships that we're able to form to kind of outsource other revenues from a very, very outdated and archaic kind of tax model that kind of has left us with some decrepit infrastructure that we're not able to service. So for us to kind of think outside the box, and not only that, but very, very much so not have to increase taxes for yet again another year. And it's pretty impressive. And I think that a lot of folks, there's some chatter on social media, or you'll have headlines that are published out of context regarding staff compensation. And I just want to put some things into perspective for folks that are watching at home, that you look at entry-level jobs for industry that are clearing six figures just at that starting point. And for us to have competitive rates, to be able to, this is just basic economics and staff retention, is to maintain the quality of staff that we have. And I firmly believe that we have some of the best staff in the country working with us and able to do the things that we're doing, is that they are compensated fairly. And I think that that's super, super important. And to publish some things out of context, and, not necessarily doing an apples to apples comparison with a municipality that is of equal size, but does not have nearly as much as we have going on here in Prince Rupert, between port export operations. We own a telecommunications company. We have, multiple municipal enterprises and counting, and just having the forward-thinking staff that we have, I continue to see firsthand how blessed we are. And I just want to, thank again the staff and the team, and that again, those of you watching at home, there's a lot more complexities to this, and I thoroughly encourage those to go and try to move some of those numbers around and allow themselves to have and enjoy kind of that, and see firsthand that exercise of what moving some money around and how that affects everything else. There's a lot of ripple effect, and each of our staff are very, very forward thinking, but also supportive of our community. And prior to COVID, they're coaching our children's sport teams, they're volunteering, they're contributing in ways that all kind of make this community really special. And I think that a lot of folks need to take those kind of things into account when they look at some of the numbers that are being presented and things like that, and that folks are compensated fairly again for the work that they do. And I just want to again thank the staff, and Happy International Women's Day, everybody, and thank you.
Thanks. Is there any further comments about the budget from council? Okay, so March 22nd will be the first public consultation. You have the opportunity to submit questions up till 4 p.m. that day to the email finance@princerupert.ca. Please review the document. The Balancing Act software will give you more line-by-line item ability to view the budget in detail. The Balancing Act software has a robust set of analytics for us to view what the inputs are. So to give council and it'll inform council in more detail what the community believes are priorities and where we should be placing our priorities. And that information will be relayed back to the community once we have that data. So I think that's an exciting way for us to be more transparent and open with our budget. We've been trying to find ways to engage with what is usually a dry process. You know, for those who are super engaged, they will read the budget, but most will not read it. And as Councillor Niche said, this I think will give the chance for people to actually get in there and start to make those adjustments that they believe are their priorities. And the software is a difficult one. It makes you have to balance the budget, and you'll find that you can't just go clicking a bunch of numbers without compensating for in some other direction. So I think it's very unique and interesting, and I'm excited that staff has brought that forward for us to be able to be more engaged with the public on that. So that'll be available tomorrow, and we're going to have some notice on social media and things like that on how to access that site. And throughout the budget process, we'll probably regularly update to encourage people to use it and just see what types of results we can get, and including there's comments you can make in that software as well, which will also be part of the compilation of the comments that we'll be getting from whether it's submitting questions by phone or by email or via that software. Everyone's going to have a chance to have their views known. So just to remind everyone that every year we are legally obligated to go through a public consultation process. Some folks feel there's no chance to be heard, but we do this every year. And this is the chance to do it. This is where you need to put those inputs, voicing your opinion on, the internet. That's one thing. But for us to get valuable feedback, we need to actually have you engage with the process so that we can record what you feel are the priorities and we can make meaningful changes based on feedback we're receiving from the public. So that being said, we'll move on then to our next item, which is item 5A, which is a verbal report from our planning team, Chris and Rob. This one is for DVP 2102 for 1144 7th Avenue East.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Chris here. This is an application to vary the required side lot setback from 1.2 meters to 0.15 meters. And notifications have been sent out. We have received one letter from a neighbor who is directly adjacent to the applicant's dwelling. The neighbor is in opposition to the proposed variance to build an additional floor that is within 0.5 feet of the side lot line. The neighbor has expressed concern that the additional story this close to the side lot line will block sunlight and impose on their privacy. In view of the concerns addressed by the immediate neighbor, Council may wish to reject this application.
Okay, is there questions from council regarding this DVP?
Can I go ahead then?
Yeah, go ahead. And then we'll
So tonight, it's written down as a verbal report. So where are we at with this one as far as what are the next steps? Because I did have a discussion with the neighbor, and with any of these variance permits, I find that the neighbor is the one that needs to be protected the most. As an example, we had the one recently where it was a garage, and really the only opposition was somebody that lived 3 blocks away. So in my eyes, that's somebody that is less relevant than somebody who's directly next door to this person. So I have had a conversation with this neighbor, and the number was 0.15 of a meter from the property line, I believe is what you said. So to me, that's a fairly close, to the property. And they didn't have an opposition to when we actually gave them a variance last year to increase their front porch. This time, now they're wanting a whole addition off the back of the house and a second story to come to that 0.15 of a meter. And to me, that's if a neighbor has that much concern, I can't support it. So I don't know where we're at in this because of, it's not saying whether we're, if this is just a discussion tonight or if this is to move to final consideration. It doesn't say that on the agenda. So I just kind of want to know where that's at.
I can respond to that. So it's gone through public notification. You may deny it tonight if you wish, or you can defer it back to the applicant to see if changes should be made.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I guess then what I'll say is I can't support this, being that the neighbor is in such opposition of this, and I can't support something where they feel it's going to infringe on their backyard, on their privacy. I get that a setback would only be 4 feet normally, but I do believe that that they should be, they have enough property there to adjust their plan. I build things every day, so I can see myself, easy ways to adjust this plan to use their property and make the setbacks, more. Best way to say it, I guess, is to enforce the proper setbacks, because I feel that when they did this one last year where it was just a little porch and it didn't affect them much and they didn't oppose it. But now I believe that this one is being that it's taking away a view, because it's right in their backyard. It's right overlooking them. I can't support this variance permit.
Councillor 80.
Yeah, just to build off of what Councillor Nisha just said, I've got the lot layout in front of me. I think it's actually not even 1.5. It's actually 0.5 feet. So I translate that into my kind of map. That's 6 inches. So one of the questions that raises then is, if you put a new story on the house, where does the overhang end up? So I went and I had a look at this and had a conversation also with the neighbor. And if you stand at the street level and look down the fence line there, the fence is of no use because it's kind of slid this way and that, as things do that are rooted in the rainforest. So it seems to me that if we are clear on where the property line is relative to the building, and if that number is correct, I would also find myself opposing it, because you really are building up quite high. And I know the way the sun goes, where those properties are located, the neighbor who's opposing this would lose their sun probably from in the summer from 10 o'clock in the morning on. And it's not just about the sunlight, it's about the line of sight and what have you, and just the proximity to the property line. I would be interested in some clarity about where the property line is exactly before I was willing to look at supporting this. And the other question I had, or comment I had, is around the other buildings that are on the site. I see there's another one that's labeled dwelling, and then there's a shed. I've got no issue with sheds. I'm just wondering whether, because the diagram says that those buildings were going to be removed, I'm wondering if that is also in the plans as well.
Yes, I can respond to that. That was a site survey from 2018. I believe the work has been done, but I can't speak to that. It wasn't included on the application, so we might need further clarification.
Well, I would concur that we do need the further clarification yet, because there are still other buildings on the lot.
Councillor Cunningham.
Oh.
I went and talked to the neighbor and also walked around and looked at it. everyone's making the same comment. I can't support this simply because it's new construction. They have enough property to use the proper setback. The new construction that they're proposing is the quality of life for the neighbor is just going to be nil. You know, like they'll be out in their deck looking at a wall, and with no sunlight at all day. They have a rather large lot. They could move their addition over, and it would be less intrusive. You know, like the point was made by one of the counselors that even if you put it that close to the wall, it's going to overhang. If it was an existing building and they were going to build, you know, not add on to it, but do some construction to the existing building, like I still had to come in 4 feet from my second level, you know, from my property line. And I think if we started doing this and letting people start new construction to this degree, it's not just a little addition, it's a very large addition that close to the property line. You know, and when you look at the property line now, when you look at the fence, you can't get any idea where the property line is. But already, if you draw a straight line down through the two houses, this person that wants to do the addition has their greenhouse on the other person's property already. They've built a foundation to put the greenhouse on, and they've moved it over a little bit, but it's still right on the property line. So, you know, and they've got lots of property to move over. It's I just couldn't support this in any way right now, and I just think it's not a good idea to do it this way. It's not going to be good construction sense to build so close to the property line. I can see the reason trying to continue down, but you know, these houses were built 50, 60, 70 years ago and no one paid any attention to property lines and setbacks and that. If you're going to build now, you got to follow the new codes. It's that simple. So I do not support this in any way at all.
Thank you. Councillor Scott Morvan.
Yeah, I concur with a lot of the notes that have been made here, and I agree. I think that there's perhaps is there an opportunity to defer this application with some amendments and recommendations? Do we have that option just for the planning team?
Yes, you do.
May I propose a motion then to defer back to the applicant so that they can modify it based on kind of some of the feedback that they've received?
Yep. Any seconders? Second by Councillor Randhawa. Additional discussion?
Okay, well, what are we deferring? You know, like we've got a motion before us for this variance. So if we turn down this variance, they can come back with another plan or something like that. I see where deferring this back to conversations almost irrelevant. You know, we reject this variance, and if they want to do something within the proper guidelines and that, then they come back for another building permit or something like that, and not you know. But this variance is on the floor to be voted on, and I think it should be voted down, to tell you the truth.
Councillor Niche.
I kind of agree with Councillor Cunningham on this. There's really not much to change on this. It's a development variance permit. If you want to come within that 4 feet of your setback on the sides, it's either you're in or you're out, and this neighbor is opposed to being in that 4 feet. So there's really not a lot to defer here. It's the reality is if they have to come in that 4 feet, they have to apply for a variance. And they have to, you know, if they stay without the 4 feet, then they get to build. They can build their second story. They can build whatever they want, as long as they, you know, follow the rules that apply without going to a variance permit. So there's really not a lot to defer, other than if they said maybe 2 feet or something. But the reality is they're trying to do it to line up the side of their house. And I have no problem with most variance permits, but when a neighbor and someone who's affected so drastically by it, to me that's it's about protecting the people. Now, if the neighbors didn't come forward with any opposition, and if they were completely fine with it, then I probably wouldn't have any issue with this at all. But being that someone feels that this is really affecting their property, you know, there's really not a lot of discussion. You're either inside the 4 feet or you're outside the 4 feet. And I think we should just continue to vote on it this evening.
Councillor Scott Morvan.
I'd be willing to reopen the floor if they wanted to strike down instead. If members of council feel that it's redundant. For me, a lot of my main kind of point came from just a recommendation from the planning team, just that there's the option between the two. If that was to no additional cost to the applicant. But yeah, for me, just trying to find that middle ground to try to facilitate that process the best we can. But if it's redundant, I can amend that if that really is up to discussion though. How does everyone else feel?
Councillor Adie.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Cunningham. There's nothing that says that the applicant can't come back and with some kind of a proposal that might meet some of these concerns. So I think we should vote on the motion.
Councillor Renha.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, like if we can't do any change, is not any changes are not any option. So I'd rather like to stay on the main motion, and I always like to be in favor of developments, but not at the cost of anybody's quality of life. I think in this case, it's impacting people's quality of life. So I can't support this motion. So I'm not in favor of this motion.
So does the mover and the seconder, just for ease of procedural,
Yes.
want to make a friendly amendment to the motion that's on the floor, that the motion be changed to denying the DVP?
Yeah, I can do that if Govinder, if he's good with that, I can do that too.
Okay.
Okay.
I like to stay with the.
So we'll do a friendly amendment then that the motion would say that council would deny the DVP 2102 for 1144 7th Avenue East.
Yeah, and I can stand as a mover still. No.
Yep. No, it's just a
Okay.
friendly amendment's an easier way to make that change.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Is there other comments from any other members of council regarding this? Councillor Moreau and then Kenny Nam? Did you have your hand up, Councillor Moreau?
I didn't, but I may as well.
Sorry.
I may as well just say it now that you've called on me. Is
Sure.
I do agree that procedure is cleaner. It's I don't know any other actually better word than that. It's cleaner to do it that way.
Councillor Cunningham.
You know, we hear the expression a lot, this is going to affect my property values. And this is a direct example of that. You know, if we go ahead with this variance, it's directly going to affect the value of the property next door to the point where it would devalue it, where, you know, like people say, well, that project's going to devalue my property, but it's 2-3 blocks away. This is a case where right next door, it's going to devalue it. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay, any final comments? Okay, and is there anybody, well, I guess I should word it, is there anybody opposed to this motion?
So the motion being like the verbal report, you know, is saying to approve that. So are we saying that we're
No,
all...
it's not. It's not saying to approve it. They were giving us the option to make our own recommendation. The motion on the floor is to deny. So I would say then, is everyone all in favor to deny the DVP? How about that? So hands up if you're in favor. Okay, so that's unanimous decision then. So the DVP will not carry forward then. Thank you for the planning team for bringing that one and the recommendations and your thoughts on that. Okay, next we have another report from our planning team, DVP 2104 for 1424 at 8th Avenue East.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an application requesting a variance for a front lot line setback from 3.6 meters to 0 meters for a proposed sun deck. The property is located at 1424 8th Avenue East, and the applicant intends to use the sun deck as a front entrance to the dwelling, which is currently located 2.6 meters from the front lot line. The sketches submitted indicates that this new deck will be 8 feet in length and 10 feet wide. It is recommended that council proceed to the statutory public notification for this application.
Okay, anyone want to move to public notification? Moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Moreau. Any discussion on this? Okay, hearing none. Anybody opposed? Motion's carried.
You muted yourself there, I think, by accident.
Yeah, Lee, you're on
Oops. I'm falling prey to the 2020 and 2021 saying of the year, which is you're on mute. Apologies. So we did the budget presentation already. So our financial officer doesn't need to say much more at this point. But we do need a resolution, and the resolution would be council by receiving this report for information purposes will provide the 2021 financial plan budget information to the community for the purposes of public consultation during the upcoming financial planning process. So any movers and seconders? So moved by Councillor Moreau,
I'll move it.
second by Councillor Cunningham. Is there any further comments on the budget? Okay, so we'll be hearing from the public over 2 sessions. And we'll also have the updated BC assessment results at the end of March as well. So we'll know more in April, and we encourage folks to use the new tool and to give City Hall a call, send emails of questions, call council, email us, talk to us, let us know your thoughts. That's how we make decisions, is based on feedback. Okay, moving forward. We have 2 reports or 2 resolutions from closed council meetings. So corporate administrator, why don't you just do both in a row?
Mr. Mayor. Moved by Mayor Brain and seconded by Councillor Cunningham that council review the applicants for the Prince Rupert Library Board and make appointments of Chelsea Keys and Chris Armstrong, and that council release the resolution at a regular future meeting of council. And secondly, that moved by Councillor Adey and seconded by Councillor Cunningham that council review the applicants for the Performing Arts Center Society and make appointments of Allison O'Toole and Margaret Caven, and that council release the resolution at a regular future meeting of council.
Thank you. Okay, item 6. We had some correspondence from the First Nations, Northern First Nations Alliance, which comprises various regional First Nations communities working together on a variety of joint initiatives. One of those initiatives is that they're seeking to apply for a study to bring a detox center to the Northwest region. And so they're looking for a letter of support from Prince Rupert City Council for that application. Location hasn't been determined yet, but it would be somewhere in the Northwest to make a more regional detox center. And so we're looking for a letter of support motion today from City Council. So moved by Councillor Scott Morbid, second by Councillor Cunningham. Is there any discussion on this topic? Okay, hearing none. Is there anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, next do we have any reports or questions or inquiries from members of council tonight? Oh, go ahead, Rosa.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. For the 5D report from the CFO, I do need it to be voted on. I have a first and a second. I just need the official all in favor.
Oh, did I not do that already? With the council, and we put
Randawa and Cunningham, and I just need to confirm that it is good.
Oh, I thought I did anybody opposed on that. Okay, well, we'll go back to that for a second then. 5D. Geez, I swear we did that. Does anyone remember? Go ahead.
Zoom amnesia.
Councillor Niche, go ahead.
I thought you did too. I thought we accepted it. So
I'm sorry, but there was no acceptance. It was a call out for any further comments.
okay.
No, I said, does anyone opposed? Which is me asking for the vote essentially at that point.
I'm happy to vote again.
We'll just vote again. How about that? So the motion, I'll read it back, is council by receiving this report for information purposes will provide the 2021 financial plan budget information to the community for the purposes of public consultation during the upcoming financial planning process. And we'll do another mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Renhowa, second by Councillor Cunningham. Is there anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, procedural. Lastly, is there any reports or questions or inquiries from members of council? I'll take names. So Councillor 80, anybody else? Councillor Moreau, anybody else? Councillor Cunningham. Okay, we'll start with that. Councillor Scott Morvan. Okay, go ahead, Councillor 80.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One has to do with the Moresby Creek, the tank removal project. I walk through there quite often, and clearly the tanks are gone, which is good. It's something that needed to be doing. It was done. It was overdue. I do notice, though, that there's a couple of things going on down there at the moment. One of them, I think, has to do with the lousy weather we've had for the last 6 months or so. And the other one is more about the project itself. So I'll start with the project. On the high side of Moresby Creek, on the Park Avenue side, I appreciate that there had to be provisions made to bring in heavy vehicles to remove the tanks, and you couldn't do the work without them. I'm just wondering if there is any plans to go further in terms of remediating that top side on the Park Avenue side, to make it look a little less like a construction road and a little more like a trail again.
I'll have to check for you, just to see what we're gonna do. I think the contractor has left, so we would have to do it with city crews. So we'll have a look and see what that possibility is.
Okay, thanks. The other aspect of that is, I know that at the end of Moresby Avenue, there's been a lot of water, and I was walking on the Park Avenue side, looking back across Moresby Pond at that area, and it looks to me like there's actually some fairly significant degradation of the entire sort of embankment there. I'm just wondering if we could have somebody go and have a look and see if that's just a seasonal thing and that we don't need to worry about it, or whether there's more to it than that.
Yeah, we can have somebody have a look at that.
Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Moreau.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just have a comment. I wanted to follow up on Councillor Skelton Morvan's recognition of International Women's Day. Recognizing, of course, that we do have a couple of fantastic role models in our senior staff, it's impossible for me to ignore that any woman in Prince Rupert does not see herself currently reflected in her elected leadership. So I know it's going to seem outrageously early to be thinking about the next election, but I did want to extend the offer to anyone who is, even if it's just a passing thought, they're more than welcome to reach out to me to have a conversation about what this job actually entails, the time and energy commitments, the practical reality of what it means to be an elected official in Prince Rupert. If I can offer any type of assistance or encouragement, there may be people that think it's counterintuitive for a sitting incumbent councillor to try to encourage other people to run, but from my perspective, we need to be doing our best in elected leadership to encourage as diverse of a slate of voices as we can possibly muster to speak to whatever that next chapter of Prince Rupert looks like. And so the only comment I would make, if you are watching council, you're already in my target market because you're interested in council. But there's so many reasons to hesitate on wanting to get involved in elected leadership. Some people are not confident in their resumes, and they think they need more education, financial background, whatever it might be, whatever that hesitation is. All I would say, from my experience, the quality of your character is so much more important than your resume. So I'll just put that offer out there. Anyone who wants to reach out to me, you can send me an email, you can give me a phone call, reach out to me on social media. Whatever platform works best for you, I would love to offer any type of assistance or encouragement in that regard. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
Quite a while back, the mayor and I discussed starting a medical or health advisory committee. And I'm thinking now in today's world that it's something that we should look at getting started in the next little while. I know Lee and I've talked about it, the mayor and I've talked about it, and it's just something with doctors retiring and recruitment retention being something that's not on everyone's mind and that, and other problems we're having with our hospital and health system. I think it would be good to have an advisory committee from the community, and that community includes the First Nations villages around here, because they're very dependent upon our hospital and that. So I'd like to see us maybe make some inroads. I know we're going to be busy the next couple of meetings, but I'd like to see if we could get that on the agenda in the next couple of meetings, if at all possible. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Kennedy, you and I can work on that together, and we'll see if we can put something together for one of the future meetings coming up here. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Scott Marvin.
Councillor Moreau actually beat me to the punch there. I was actually going to make a lot of notions regarding our very one-sided representation here on council, and I'd kind of echo a lot of those notions that either reach out to Councillor Moreau or myself, and I'd be more than happy to help kind of give an idea of what it means to be an elected official. So that's something I'd like to echo, but also just kind of speak to some of the challenges that we're facing in the community regarding COVID-19 and the outbreaks, and folks that have lost loved ones and are experiencing grief and tough times, and know that there are supports in place. It's just a matter that there's no shame in reaching out for those supports. I know that this is not an easy time in our community, and there are a lot of folks at home that are struggling, and I think that there's a lot of things that we can do as leadership to help kind of facilitate that process a little bit and connect those to the support. So there's a variety of different resources that we can connect folks with, but I think that, again, is just having that conversation initially that this is not easy. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and this is all over soon, and this will be just nothing but a memory of the past. So it'll just take time. But for folks that are having challenges at home, know that you're not suffering in isolation, and that all of us, we're in this together, and we'll get through this. So thanks.
Thank you. We'll do Councillor Niche, then Councillor Renha.
Just something that I've brought up a couple times, and I noticed it again the other day, and with our line painting program that we've been doing every year, I mean, I believe the majority of the problem is caused by the fact that we can't use the good paint that they used to have back in the day, because of environmental concerns. So now we're using a paint that's just not, if you look at it, it's not nearly as thick and as durable as it used to be. And I really think, I mean, it's tough in a town where we get so much rain. You want to get the job done because you take advantage of the sun when you can. But I really feel that that this year we should be moving that program later in the year. We're not even making it through half a winter, and our lines are gone. Our crosswalks are gone. Our yellow lines are gone. It's scary for a pedestrian to have to cross a crosswalk when it's not even there anymore. And I feel that in the spring and the summer, when the sun is out late at night, that's the least time we need those lines. We need those lines in the wintertime when it's dark from 4 o'clock till the next morning. And I really think that we should try and move that program later into the year, so that we can try and make it through a good majority of our winter next year with having some lines on the road, instead of getting it all done in the spring, and by the time the winter rolls around, it's all gone already. So just an observation, and something that I've brought up a couple of years now. Or if we can look into maybe if they have different paint options available that are more durable and longer lasting, because what they're doing now and what they're using now is just not working. It's I hate to say throwing away money, because we have to do it, but it's kind of throwing away money in the sense that it's not doing its purpose, and it's not getting us through the winter.
Councillor Cunningham, did you have a follow-up with what his comment was there before we go to Councillor Renha?
Yes, I did, Mayor. I've noticed we've been using Yellowhead for the last, 2 years, 3 years, and since we started using them, this is when this problem's come. Now, I don't know if there's other contractors out there, or we should go back to our own painters. When we had our own painters on crew, we didn't seem to have this problem. You know, they could paint during the year, all year round, when the weather was there. And Yellowhead runs in, whips around like crazy, and then takes off again. And since we've had them as contractors, we've had nothing but trouble with our lines. I've seen them paint over top of, where the road wasn't even properly cleaned down by the Coast Guard base. And in less than 2 months later, there was no line there. So, and I don't know if there's quality control or what, but, I echo Councillor Nice's comments that, it's getting to the point where, late at night, if the road isn't well lit, you don't even know where the center line is anymore. And I've noticed 2 or 3 times problems with that. And as you get older, your eyes get worse. So it's even worse for people. But it's and with the dark nights and everything, it's getting to be more of a safety hazard. But we should address it somehow.
Yeah, our operations team will look into that, and we'll get back to council here in the spring around the painting program, because these are good thoughts. Councillor Randhawa.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. With all the winter conditions, like now we can see like potholes are popping up too. So I was wondering like if we have any plan in place to fix those potholes.
We're not past the freeze-thaw period yet in the season, so the potential for that to occur still is there. Once the freeze-thaw season is over, then the crews are mobilized to start doing potholes. So usually that's, I would say, like late March, probably sometime April. Is that correct to staff? From staff? Yeah. So once the freeze-thaw season's completed, that's when we do that. So it'll be as soon as we're able.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any final comments? Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn then. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Skelton Morvan. Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much for joining us on our first Zoom meeting. We'll see you at the public consultation on March 22nd at 7 p.m. And we'll hope to have your questions answered then. Thanks.